If I could find a way to bottle validation and like sell it, I would be a million, if not a billionaire, because so many people in our community need validation that saying that's valid has become a meme. Hi, my friends, fiends, and unsavory beans. Welcome to another Ask a Therapist radio show. I'm RiaRosella. I'm going to answer your questions. Thank you so much for everyone who's following this series. Let's get right into it. If you have a question, drop it down below in the Google form. That's where I'm getting these questions from. Thanks. But first up, we have Aurora, she, her. One of the most draining factors of the whole trans experience for me has been self-doubt. Over the past few years, I have constantly debated with myself whether or not I'm trans. Key arguments against would be, I'm just faking it. I'm just feeling these feelings and thinking these thoughts for some parasocial reason, slash blatant internalized transphobia. I'm already seeking out HRT and I'm making attempts to social transition, but it's slow going. How do I stop all this self-doubt? And how do I stay stable when I know I'm trans, but I can't do anything about it? In my thoughts, I believe all those lovely affirmations, but deep down, something doesn't. Well, it is a fact that only 1% of people detransition. So, there's a high probability that you're trans, and you should just not worry about it, and just continue the course. Now, I want everyone to go check the comments below and see if there was someone who is angry that I am a woke moralist or something to the effect trying to convert people to being trans, or some reply guy with egg on their face now, because that isn't what I believe. So let's actually get to the real answer to this question. Yes, it is true, most people do not detransition. However, self-doubt in the beginning of the process is very important. It's how we find out if we are sure. It's how we start to discover our identity. We have to put on different things. We have to explore. So if you're in the beginning of the process, there's going to be some self-doubt. You're still finding your feet and whether this is right for you. Let's talk about, though, if this continues after, say, 6 months, a year, 2 years, like you have gotten comfortable in your life, but there's still this niggling feeling that you're just like, I don't know. Hell, I experienced that years into my transition. You can stop the self-doubt by grounding yourself in what feels right to you. Externalize these thoughts. Put a big list of what is feeling right. Things that are tangible, like experiences in time and place. I felt good about my gender when this happened. I felt good about X when I was out at the store and someone said I had a pretty dress. Like, or something to that effect. Ground yourself in your experiences. So when you have these thoughts that are kind of, frankly, very flimsy, where you can ground yourself in positive experience that you've had, or even neutral experience. Oh, I've just been living my life, and it just feels like my life. Those are the types of things that can help you feel more grounded and stop that doubt cold. Other things you can do is work on your performance on gender. So a lot of people misinterpret Butler to say that gender is like made up when you say it's performance. It isn't true. Gender is a gender construct in that we make gender via what we do as humans. It is a real thing. It is something that we display. We have this internalized sense of gender, and we are trying to display it to other people through our actions. And so feeling comfortable and trying to figure out what type of in this instance, woman you are, can help you feel more comfortable. So like for me, I struggled when I realized that I didn't like a lot of the girly girl things to the nth that I thought that I was supposed to. Like, I like makeup. I enjoy makeup. I don't wear it very often. I like very pretty clothes, but I honestly wear a lot of like momcore or cottagecore things. Very like comfortable, very relaxing. That's usually my stuff I wear. And the reason for that is because, at least for me, my autism, I am not just a trans woman. I am an autistic trans woman. I am someone who cannot separate that because it just affects my gender presentation so much. I am not the people that can get in those heels and be uncomfortable. It's just sensory so overwhelming for me. So I have to complete my mosaic of womanhood with all of my adjectives, and that makes me feel more secure in my womanhood and more secure in who I am. You can't just like look at one part of you in isolation and try to determine if that one piece is right, because like you're looking real close at that one part. You're like, oh, yep, there's this one part, it's right in my face, but you're not seeing the whole picture. When you see the whole, perhaps maybe it actually is comfortable. So self-doubt in the beginning, that's fine. That's part of the process. It is to ensure that you are you, who you want to be. It's important to have that. But as you are going through that process, ground yourself in it. What feels right? Thank you so much, Aurora. Next question. They just wrote no for the name, and then they said female for their pronouns. Oh, we got a TERF! TERF alert! TERF! Oh my goodness. So, of course they're asking me, what makes you a woman, with quotes around it, without saying you feel like one or using stereotypes. I'm sorry, but I am not male, or at least not strictly male. I have been not only a self-selected intersex with my hormones, but I am actually intersex. So I am neither male nor female. So checkmate TERF, intersex people exist. Your dichotomy of assigning gender to sex is not a clear fit. I would have to pick one gender, either or, because I am not strictly male or female. So let's just set that aside, because that's not in the spirit of their question. We're going to actually challenge them, because it's related to the first question, like that self-doubt. A lot of TERFs say things that make trans people have self-doubt. And so let's actually address this one about feeling like a woman, right? I've had this internal sense of gender since I was a very small child. Probably because I knew something was up, because things weren't the way they were supposed to be. But we have this sense of self that is innate, and I know you're saying that's a feeling. But you feel like you're a woman. How do you know you're not a man? Because you don't feel that way. And you would say it is your biological framework that makes you who you are. But that biological framework can be changed. All of my physical sex characteristics, with the exception of chromosomes, which you can't see, have been shifted to that of a woman. Or should I say female? If you had to put me cleanly in one box, you would put me in the female box. Unless you were to open me up and see that I don't have a cervix or a womb, there's not really a way you can tell that I am trans just by looking at me. So, but there's this oh no, feeling, Let me actually go back a little bit and just define woman. Ria's going to say what is a woman, and maybe people like Matt Walsh can actually understand it. I define woman as a gender identity typically associated with females that carries the historical context of what people associate with female. There is a bunch of things that, like I said before, womanhood is a mosaic. There are little gremlin-like women who just are in a hoodie and like leggings all the time or sweatpants. And there are fashionista women who are, you know, on fleek. These stereotypes that you say that I shouldn't use. Like, there are all different types of people. I'm not using stereotypes. But when we know it, when we see it, it is the je ne sais quoi of what a woman is. When people see me, they see a woman. If I was non-binary, and I was serving non-binary in whatever way that I choose to serve it, there would be something that suggested that. If I was a man, I would be doing the same thing. There would be something in my nature that I would be expressing through my gender performance to communicate to people, I am X gender. That is why. It is self-selection, just like you, sweetheart. Everyone chooses their gender. And I would also say that everyone chooses their sex. Not because they don't have inherent sexual characteristics, but because they can change them. And we have a social construct around sex. We have all of these characteristics that we assign to the concept of sex, and therefore it is a construct. Yes, there is a biological reality, but that's not what we mean when we talk about it, because if our construct was truly correct in the way that we as humans talk about sex, then more people would be talking about people like me who are intersex. More people would realize that you can be born with ambiguous genitalia, and that is part of the spectrum of what sex is. We clean the edges of what it means to have a concept so we can understand and talk about it, and that leaves off the actual reality. Remember, if you've seen my video on simulacra simulation and escaping the matrix, like, you can't get this perfect idea that is in your head out to other people perfectly. We create simulacra for everything when we're communicating. So therefore, we create sex as a social construct too. So my female friend, I hope you have your best life. Cade, he, him. Is it normal to start getting dysphoria from pronouns and names after breaking your egg? Or is it a psychological kind of thing? Haven't properly come out IRL, so people still use old pronouns and name. You're just paying attention more because now you see it, right? And that's where that dysphoria is coming from. Let's use a mental health thing as an example. So, I often will assign people to log the number of times that they've had negative thoughts or that they notice they're having negative thoughts using a sports counter, whether it's a physical device that like clicks or is digital or an app on their phone. And whenever they notice they're having a negative thought, they click. And what that does is over time they notice, oh my gosh, I'm thinking so many more negative thoughts than I thought I was before. And the thing with that is actually, you're just noticing it more. So that's all. You are more aware of your gender and how you don't fit. And so that's probably why you're having that dysphoria. I can't know that for sure, but that is the common thing that I have seen in my experience. So, perfectly normal. Next question. Oh, they're challenging me to say their name right. Okay. Akaiteru? That's my guess. Did I get it right? And they want me to use any neo-pronouns. Well, since technically I don't address you directly, I can just use secondary pronouns, but I'm going to think that you're a EM-ZZM type person. That's what I'm going to say your pronouns are. I'm trans, femme, maybe gender fluid. I don't know, could be forced normalcy. Omnisexual and polyamorous. Anarchist. You don't have to mention that, but would appreciate it. Well, I'm an anarchist, so there you go. From the third world, specifically from the nation of Nepal. In recent years, it has become apparent that fashion is resurging in the West and imperial core. There's a lot of political stuff that this person is saying about how things are bad. I'm going to summarize because they wrote a lot. Where queer liberation is the strongest has risk to falter with resurgent, that word that is with an F, that is a ideology that we're currently struggling with in the United States, and basically reducing queer liberation worldwide. In this case, due to the severity of this system, I come from the nation state of Nepal, has barely decent protections for trans people and queer people, with limited state persecution. What advice and perspective do I have in case the case where trans liberation is crushed or heavily repressed in the West, and us on the imperial periphery being stranded in the process? I'm very scared for the future. While I'm never a believer in linear progress, I'm scared of seeing a worst case scenario affecting us all, including my friends in the West. And I want to see communication advice on strategy to prepare for the upcoming storm we have to navigate. So I think this is a toughie, obviously, right? Because we're having to predict the future. We don't know what is going to happen. I personally, as bad as it looks, I think that it's actually going to get better. I know maybe I'm the eternal optimist, and that is just who I am, but I feel like this is a reactionary period after the growth that we've already had, and we will get some rebound in the other way after this tantrum has essentially had its way out. That being said, let me think on your answer for if it does get bad. I think we need to study queer history, specifically history of the HIV/AIDS crisis, where most trans people were stealth. DIY was how everything was done. We just had to exist and do our best in a society that didn't see us. We didn't have legal recognition. There was a lot of barriers. We created social support systems in the United States. Since you're asking about the West, that was like the ballroom scene. There was also other queer support chosen family systems throughout the country. That's just the one that is coming to mind right now. ACT UP kind of became a chosen family too, of all these people coming together. And I think through our bonds as a community and us creating a new world in the shell of the old is basically how we're going to survive if things get truly terrible. Of course, people with privilege can go to Western states that are more affirming of trans identity, but if things truly get bad, that's just kicking the can down the road, right? Like, it's only going to stay good for so long if we are truly falling down that road. But again, that's all mind reading. We can't know what's going to happen. Other than learning from those elders' experiences, I mean, also there is truly like self-sustaining, queer-affirming models of governance like the Zapatistas. I know that won't protect us from outside, but like there's so many things that could be done because this is such a nebulous question. And I guess I'll just say relying on ourselves and relying on creating our own inter-networked people as much as we possibly can. As for blowback effects to the non-West, kind of what your question was going to, I don't even know if that's going to happen. It kind of seems like with the dollar on the down that this might become the Chinese century. And if it does, perhaps maybe that would mean that China would have to stop the kind of don't ask, don't tell thing they have going on with queerness in their country, where technically it's illegal, but there's lots of queer people living in China right now. And they're just doing what they're doing. Again, maybe, and I'm not going to say they're going to westernize because I don't know what will happen, right? But perhaps maybe it will look something more similar to what we had when the rights were better in the West in the growing superpower of China as it has to take over the world stage. I don't know, can't predict the future. That would be my hope, is that where one place fades, another place will build. Thank you so much for your question and I read your entire thing in full here in your thoughts. Tell me if I got your name right. Up next, we have Rain, she, they. I have found myself developing an odd appreciation for praise since becoming trans. Things like good girl. How common is this in the community? Have you seen Twitter and Blue Sky? Like, have you seen it? Have you seen, like, trans memes? It's pretty common, at least on the internet. I think that we have a tendency to assume that the internet trans culture is, like, all of trans culture, and that's not true. But, like, it's pretty common. Let me speculate, and it's only speculation, why that would be. Why do so many trans girls and other trans people really like dig into praise? I think it has to go into that sense of validity that we were talking about in a lot of these questions today, actually. They have society that is trying to like hammer them down, like that is trying to make them seem like they are not who they say they are. So when you have someone affirm you and say, good girl, God, you are such a good girl. Oh, I'm sorry, chat. But when people say, good girl, and you get excited, it's because you are feeling seen. I think also you have to look at some of the other intersections with trans identities, specifically like burned out gifted kid or neurodivergent or whatever. And you have a lot of things that are stacking up to like invalidate your sense of being able to read yourself and understand yourself and needing that externalness. So when you're starting to come into your own, you need that extra support. Like, if I could find a way to bottle validation and like sell it, I would be a million, if not a billionaire, because so many people in our community need validation that saying that's valid has become a meme. Like, that's why I think that that's the way it is. So, continue on. Good girl. Alright, next we have Goldie, they, them. I'm pretty sure I'm androgynous, but I want to identify as she, her. What's going on? Well, are you androgynous because of what you believe you are? Or are you androgynous because of what other people are reading you as, and that's just easy? If you want she, her, then perhaps maybe you need to try different performances related to womanness, she, her-ness, whatever that means to you, and seeing what fits. Maybe you'll get to a she, they, or a they, she, or what have you. I think that if you want it, there's something there that needs to be explored, that you're still in that exploration process. That's what I would say to you. I usually like to try to end on a big, like, note in these videos, because I feel like it's important to kind of have a question that ties everything into a bow. But honestly, all of these questions have been so well-oiled and well-connected today. So I think I'm gonna end there. Y'all, like, gender is complicated. Gender is a mosaic. Gender is this wonderful thing that we build together in dialogue with all humans on this planet. There's no one way to be anything. So explore and find out what's right for you. That's the only way you're going to get where you need to get. There is no silver bullet to this process. You have to do the work. Thank you so much. If you found this useful, please pick the wave emoji because I have an ocean behind me, and tell me what you found useful. Comment on what it means to be a certain gender to you. What is your specific gender presentation of whatever gender you are look like? Paint me a beautiful picture of your mosaic of gender. I want to read it in the comments. I think that would be wonderful to have. And like and subscribe. If you are enjoying these videos, please join my Patreon. For only $1, you can join a lovely little community. This Pride, we're doing some events in the Discord. I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Welcome to the magic place of the ink card. I want to give a shout out to the people doing fan art and my $5 plus patrons you see here. Will you please subscribe and ring the bell as well? Check out this video here next. Please do it for me, sweetie. Mwah.